which we're going to have some time for hopefully at the end. So now I'm just going to hand over to Pippa Cramer. So Pippa, do briefly introduce yourself, and then you can ask Kate to share your slides. And I'm hoping we can hear from Pippa. Her internet was a little bit dodgy earlier, but I'm hoping that we can hear from her.
Yes, can you hear me?
Ah, wonderful, yeah.
Yes.
Feel free to keep your screen off if your internet's a bit dodgy,
Yes.
but we can hear you.
I'll turn my screen on, and as Carl said, my internet's not great today. It keeps crashing, so please pray that it stays going. But if I have to turn my face off, I'm sorry, you'll just have to listen to my voice. But yes, thank you so much, Carl, for having me again, and hello to everybody. Apologies if some of the things that I say today are similar to yesterday. I'm speaking sort of imagining that this is a slightly different audience. I know yesterday was more so church leaders, but actually we're all leaders, aren't we, in terms of what we're doing with our older people. To be with you, and I shall get going. So can you all hear me? Do I need to turn my screen off, do you think?
Pippa, could you turn your screen off? Might just be helpful.
Yeah, I will do. Hang on.
And we've got your slides up.
Okay, brilliant. So this is me, and now I've lost my notes. Just one second. Yeah. So anyway, for those of you that weren't here with us yesterday, yes, my name is Pippa, and my role is I'm pastoral care and seniors minister at Holy Trinity Church in Claygate, Surrey, as well as the co-founder of the Daily Hope free phone line, which we set up at the beginning of the pandemic last year with the Archbishop of Canterbury, Church of England, and with Faith in Later Life. My background is I am an occupational therapist by training, and I've worked for many years in the NHS as an OT in neuro rehabilitation and also within geriatric medicine. And I think I said yesterday, perhaps this is where my love of older people was developed. But interesting, I just loved listening to what Dave was just saying about the role of older people and younger people, because I know that my love for older people really did grow from having the most wonderful grandparents who I literally adored. They were just incredible. In fact, I used to call my grandpa my most favoritist man. He was amazing. So I consider myself very ordinary, but I do love the Lord, and my biggest heart's desire is for this precious older generation to be loved and cared for, and to be given the opportunity to hear how much God loves them, how amazing He is, and how much of a difference He can make to their lives. This is what drives me. So, Kate, if we could have the first slide, thank you. So in normal times, I run Connections, which is a large weekly group for seniors. We would regularly have well over 100 older people meeting together. Love and care is key to this, and prayer surrounds every aspect. There was a lot of prayer right in the very early days when I knew that we wanted to set something up for our older friends. In fact, I spent 9 months praying about it. Having conversations with key people that I knew I would love to have on my team with me. Yes, we've got some of our activities on the screen now. There's all sorts of things happening. We have a thought for the day. I would say that Connections uses a highly relational form of evangelism. So everyone is made to feel welcomed and valued and special. And this, I think, is what brings people back each week. People love the fact that they are known and valued. Next slide, please. The activities, the thought for the day, the coffee, the cakes, all of those sorts of things are, in my mind, a bit secondary to the love and care that is shown. I think it's really, really important. We've all been to places, haven't we, where maybe nobody's spoken to us, and how dreadful that feels. I remember when my son actually was a baby, and I went to a baby group, and it was the most unfriendly place. And I remember at that point, just, as a young mummy, just thinking, oh, I never ever want to be involved with anything where people don't speak to you and don't welcome you. So actually God used that all those years ago, because of course, so many of our older friends struggle on different levels, whether this is with isolation or loneliness, loss, bereavement, reduced mobility, illness. So having a safe place to come to each week has meant the world to our older friends. And my team, which, as I've just said, I spent a long term building, have been key to the success of Connections. From this, we have developed Hymns We Love, which is a very gentle and accessible series of sharing the Christian faith through wonderful hymns. We've got 16 in total. So we look at the stories behind the hymn, we sing the hymn together, we look at the authors, the message. This generation, of course, have grown up with singing wonderful hymns, whether that was from Sunday school or in school assemblies. And we found that, even people with dementia can still so often remember these hymns and melodies. So this is proving to be extremely successful. We've tried other ways of sharing the gospel, but this by far is the most popular. And we are hoping to develop this further and share this series with more and more churches. So at the beginning of the pandemic last March, we quickly realised that we would need to love and care for our seniors in different ways, because we couldn't all obviously meet together. So what I thought today I'd love just to do is just to tell you about some of the different ways we've been engaging with and supporting our seniors during this past year, but also as we come out of lockdown and the restrictions ease. And I'm sure you're probably all doing similar things to this. So I'm just sharing really with what we've been doing, and hopefully maybe giving you one or two ideas. So we firstly set up a cascade of care. We set up a phone line at church, and we encouraged our helpers and our volunteers to call our older friends. We made sure that we obviously had everyone's details at the very beginning of the pandemic, which we had most of them anyway. It's been amazing and continues today. Thousands, we've worked it out roughly, it is thousands of phone calls have been made offering pastoral and practical and or spiritual support. So many of our seniors who live by themselves have just felt so unimaginably lonely and isolated. So just being able to chat regularly with somebody on the phone has felt like a lifeline. This was huge at the beginning, of course, and with a lot of my helpers all over the age of 70, a lot of them were encouraged to stay at home as well. So we had to recruit a whole new tier of younger volunteers who could help out a little bit more practically. I mean, what a year it's been. It's been quite something, hasn't it? And loneliness and isolation have always been with us, of course, but the pandemic has highlighted this, which is a good thing. And, I would encourage you just to pick up your phone and ring older neighbours, relatives, friends, just as I've said, having somebody ringing you up to see how you're doing can just mean the world. Secondly, when we've been allowed, I've been encouraging our helpers and volunteers to do doorstep visits. Again, this has been so wonderful for our older friends, just to see another person, even if on the doorstep, and it's provided the opportunity for so many pastoral conversations and perhaps also an opportunity to pray for that person. Goody bags, I'd love to mention these too. We've put together hundreds and hundreds of goody bags over the last year, some involving local schools. Again, I loved hearing what Dave was just saying about using and involving intergenerational work. So we've had a lot of our local youngsters doing this. Some of the bags we've called Just to Keep You Going goody bags, or we've had Christmas ones, we've had New Year ones, we've had Easter ones. We've just delivered last week another 180 focusing on love, joy and hope, just to keep people going. And these have been so appreciated by our older friends, and just are in themselves a tiny token really to let that person know that they're being thought of and prayed for. Often we've put simple Bible verses in them. Maybe a little booklet at Easter. We put the Why Easter booklet. That was just such a great opportunity to share the gospel and then have wonderful conversations on the back of that. Maybe a couple of chocolates, a little wooden cross. That's been really appreciated, I have to say. Last week, so I think we had a small lavender bag in there, a coffee bag. We've put small packets of biscuits, a Christmas decoration, an Easter egg. I mean, the possibilities are endless. But having something to deliver is a fantastic opportunity for a doorstep visit too. It's a really good excuse. And one wonderful thing we found is that by inviting our younger seniors, so those who perhaps are newly retired or you would never want to ever be seen as older, and I know that's how we all feel, just engaging them and asking them to help with these deliveries and, these chats, bringing church to people at home has been really, really invaluable. So normally we run what we call walk and talk. And these people have just loved walking in pairs or little groups of 6 when allowed. So I think everybody's wanted to be able to help. And again, we've involved children with delivering these bags as well. Next, I'll just mention our newsletters and cards. These started in the summer, I think it was last year, and we've sent out many, many newsletters because, of course, so many of our seniors aren't connected to the internet. And actually, that's, again, something just to think about going forward. If they're not already connected to the internet, they might not necessarily want to start learning, although we are hoping that some of them will. So some of them are not able, obviously, to see online notices at church. So we've tailored our newsletters for them and used lots of photos, which they love, and messages of hope and encouragement, Bible verses, poems, and generally just keeping them posted about what's happening. And again, cards. So many kind of thinking of you cards have been sent out. It means so much to receive a little card, doesn't it? Or a little bunch of flowers or cakes. We've got a wonderful group of mums who've been wonderfully baking during lockdown and delivering cakes to our older friends as well. I mentioned the Daily Hope right at the very beginning when I first started speaking, and this is the free phone line which we set up with the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Church of England, and Faith in Later Life at the beginning of the lockdown. And this has got all sorts of wonderful things on it, on a menu, including, you get a welcome from Archbishop Justin, and then, we've got Hymns We Love, which I just mentioned, which grew out of Connections. But we also have church services, brilliant for those who are housebound. We've got prayers, hymns, reflections. We've even got chair exercises on the phone, Sleep Well with Daily Hope for those struggling with their sleep. So again, flyers for these can be downloaded from the Faith in Later Life website and also the Church of England website. And these are a great thing to deliver to older people, I would suggest. A great excuse for a doorstep visit, maybe. And I'm wondering whether we might be able to attach a link in the chat for anyone that's interested. The number is, if you'd like to scribble it down, it's a free phone number. It's 0800 804 8044, and it's free, as I said, and it's available 24 hours a day. And it's been a lifeline to so many people. In the last year, we've had well over 450,000 calls. That's nearly 6 million minutes of call time. So that would be something I would encourage you to share with older friends or older people that you know in your local area. On the 29th of March, when the restrictions were eased a little and we were allowed to meet in small groups of 6 outside, I encouraged all our helpers and volunteers to organise little garden gatherings. And many were very fearful, of course, and unconfident about going out after having spent so long at home. So this has been happening very gently, sometimes even just with 1 or 2 other people. But garden gatherings or, outside in a park or wherever, or even on a doorstep, are a wonderful way of connecting with people. And I think, I mentioned yesterday one I ran just last week, You know, we had a few people, 2 of them in that group, who had recently lost their partners. You know, they'd been just recently widowed. So this was the first time they'd actually come out. And there was a sort of flavour of that, of remembering, you know, giving thanks. There's a lot of laughing, but there were also tears. Just as we were able to, and in fact, actually at the end, we just very simply, it moved into a time of just praying and giving thanks to the Lord for these precious 2 that were no longer with us. They've been amazing. And, you know, I just think people just need encouragement to do this. So not everyone, as I've said, has a garden, of course. So some of these get-togethers have literally happened on front doorsteps or in parks. And one of my helpers has a carport without sides to it, if you can imagine. So that's great for when it rains. And yes, we've even had them in a garage. We had one the other day in somebody's garage because it started raining. We've been very creative. And we've very much been taking, I would say, church to our older friends, rather than expecting them to come to church just because they haven't been able to. And again, I just think that if Jesus was here physically, he would do this. I just know he'd be wandering around and visiting people, wouldn't he? And he'd go to the people. So really just coming up to concluding, everyone, no matter what age we are, needs to feel included, loved, valued and known. We're not thinking too far ahead right now. You know, hopefully restrictions will ease further and social distancing as well. But for now, over the summer, coming alongside, listening, loving and caring, so key. For this wonderful people group seemed to me to be the best way forward. Building loving and generous teams is a big passion of mine. I mentioned that briefly yesterday, and I could speak for ages about that, and one day perhaps I'd love to run a whole seminar on this, because I believe passionately that this is important. We can't do this by ourselves. But for now, I'd just love to encourage you to really just pray for the right people to emerge around you with helping to build your seniors ministry in your local churches and communities. And I'd be happy to talk about that in the future if that was felt it was needed. Personally, I believe that this past year, although it's been too terrible for words, it's actually given us the opportunity to do things very differently, to think differently, to engage with older people differently. We've had some amazing opportunities to connect with older people, and I think the opportunities are really continuing. So I'll leave this here. Please do know that I have been praying for you, and I will continue to be praying for you as you consider ways of reaching out and supporting those who are older in your churches and communities. What a privilege it is. And I'm going to be especially praying that we can all stay very close to the Lord and continually ask for his direction and leading. And I think there might be a time, as Carl said, for questions at the end. So thank you so much. And I don't think my internet crashed, did it? Could you hear me?
It's all excellent. Pippa, we thank God for your Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Thank you for all you've shared with us. And there will be some time for questions later.